A couple of years ago, when people talked about moving to the Triad, it felt like everybody automatically leaned towards Greensboro because it was bigger, had more shopping, more restaurants, and more overall activity. But here in 2026, I think that conversation has changed a lot. Winston-Salem has grown into itself in a way that really made people stop and look at it differently. And now I'm seeing more and more buyers genuinely struggling to decide between the two cities because they both offer a really good quality of life in completely different ways. My name is Keon. I live here, I work here, I help people buy and sell homes right here in the Triad. And I'm not here just to sell you a dream. I'm here to give you the full picture so you can make the right decision for you and your family. So whether you're making a move in 9 days or 9 months, feel free to reach out. I'm receiving calls and texts every day and I love it. My contact information is in the description box and I'm easy to reach. And honestly, that's why I wanted to make part 2 of this video. Because after my first Winston-Salem versus Greensboro video, I had so many people reaching out saying that they were surprised by how different the cities actually felt once they came in person. A lot of people moving here think that the two are interchangeable. But after spending some real time in both places, you realize pretty quickly that the experience of living in Winston and the experience of living in Greensboro are very different from one another. One thing that I've realized over the years is that Winston-Salem and Greensboro attract different personalities of people. Not better people or worse people, just different personalities. Greensboro tends to attract people who enjoy having a little more activity around them at all times, while Winston-Salem tends to attract people who really value atmosphere, character, and balance in their day-to-day lives. And when I say atmosphere, I'm talking about the feeling that you get when you're actually living somewhere. Not just visiting for a weekend or driving through one neighborhood. I'm talking about how the city feels when you wake up on a random Tuesday morning, when you go grab coffee on a Saturday, when you drive home from work, or when friends come into town and you're trying to decide where to take them. Winston-Salem has this calm confidence about it that people really connect with once they spend enough time here. Greensboro feels larger in almost every way. It feels more commercial, more spread out, and more active throughout the day. There's more shopping, more major retail areas, more traffic, and more of that traditional city energy where it constantly feels like people are moving from one thing to another. For some people, that's exactly what they want because it makes the city feel alive and connected. Winston-Salem feels alive too, but in a different way. Winston feels more intentional. It feels like the city knows exactly what it is and isn't trying too hard to become something else. Even with all the growth happening here, Winston has still managed to hold on to a lot of its personality and character that made people fall in love with it in the first place. I think downtown Winston-Salem is a perfect example of that. When you walk downtown now, especially compared to where it was years ago, it really has a vibe to it. You've got people outside walking dogs, sitting at restaurants, hanging out in Bailey Park, grabbing coffee, going to breweries, and just enjoying life. But even with all that activity, the city still feels relaxed at the same time. And honestly, that's one of the things that people relocating here seem to appreciate the most. And real quick before we keep going, if you're seriously thinking about moving to either Winston-Salem or Greensboro, make sure you check out the description of this video because I've put together downloadable relocation guides for both cities. I wanted to create something that gives you a better feel for each area beyond just what you see online. A lot of people moving here have told me that those guides help them narrow down which area fits them best. So definitely take advantage of that because they're completely free. A lot of buyers moving to the Triad in 2026 are coming from places where it feels extremely fast and stressful all the time. I talk to people moving from Atlanta, South Florida, DC, New York, and parts of Texas all the time. And one thing they consistently tell me is that they're looking for balance. They still want nice restaurants, things to do, and a strong economy, but they also want peace. They want a city where they can enjoy their life instead of constantly feeling overwhelmed. That's where Winston-Salem really shines in my opinion. It gives you enough city energy to stay entertained while still feeling manageable and comfortable on a daily basis. You can get around fairly easily because the traffic usually isn't too bad. And there's a sense of community here that people really connect with emotionally after they move. Now, Greensboro absolutely has strengths as well. And I think it's important to be honest about that because some people are naturally going to prefer Greensboro energy more. Greensboro has more large-scale retail, more major chain restaurants, bigger shopping areas, and more commercial development overall. It feels more like a traditional growing metro area, and for some people who like to have a lot of options around them at all times, Greensboro can feel really exciting. I also think that Greensboro feels younger in some ways because there's always movement happening. Between colleges, the events, the shopping centers, and all the development happening around different parts of the city, Greensboro constantly feels active. Winston-Salem has activity too, but Winston's energy feels calmer and more grounded, while Greensboro energy feels more fast-paced and outwardly busy. And honestly, neither is wrong. That's what makes this conversation interesting because there really isn't a universal answer to which city is better. It comes down to what kind of life you're trying to build for yourself and what kind of environment naturally brings out the best version of you. One thing Winston-Salem does incredibly well is making everyday life feel enjoyable. The city has a lot of character, and that character shows up in the neighborhoods, the restaurants, the parks, and even the way people interact with one another. There's something about Winston that feels personal. People smile at you here. Conversations happen naturally. You walk into a coffee shop or a restaurant enough times, and eventually, people start recognizing you. Greensboro feels more anonymous to me sometimes. And I don't necessarily mean that negatively. Some people actually prefer that because they like the feeling of living in a larger city where there's more separation and independence. Winston feels more connected socially, while Greensboro feels more independent socially. Depending on your personality, you're probably going to naturally prefer one of those environments over the other. Housing is another major difference between the two cities right now in 2026. Greensboro still has a lot of newer communities being built, and if you're someone who loves the newer subdivisions, modern floor plans, larger developments, and HOA-style neighborhood living, Greensboro is probably going to appeal to you more naturally. There are definitely newer communities in Winston-Salem too, but Winston still leans heavily into established neighborhoods with mature trees, unique homes, and areas that feel deeply rooted into the city's history. That's one thing people relocating here notice immediately about Winston-Salem. The neighborhoods feel distinct from one another. Ardmore feels completely different from Buena Vista, and so on. Every part of Winston-Salem has its own personality, and I think that gives the city a lot of emotional depth when you actually live here. Greensboro neighborhoods tend to feel more spread out. The city itself is physically larger, and because of that, it sometimes feels like you're driving longer distances between major areas. Winston-Salem, it feels more compact and connected overall, which a lot of people appreciate because daily life feels simpler and easier to manage. I also think Winston-Salem has become significantly more attractive over the last few years because people are prioritizing quality of life differently now. A few years ago, a lot of buyers mainly cared about square footage and price. Now, people are thinking more deeply about how they actually want to live their lives and how they want it to feel on a daily basis. And that shift has benefited Winston-Salem tremendously. People want walkability. They want local restaurants, parks, community events. They want areas with personality instead of places that feel overly commercialized. Winston-Salem delivers that experience really well because the city feels authentic. It doesn't feel like it's trying too hard just to impress you. That's honestly one of the biggest differences that I noticed between Winston and Greensboro. Greensboro impresses you with scale. Winston connects with you emotionally. Greensboro feels bigger and busier, while Winston feels more personal and memorable. Some people want the excitement and movement that Greensboro offers, while others fall in love with that slower, more intentional rhythm of Winston-Salem. And I'll be honest with you, I think Winston-Salem has done a really good job of aging as a city. Some cities lose themselves as they grow, but Winston has done a pretty good job of modernizing while still keeping its identity intact. The innovation quarter, the downtown growth, the restaurant scene, and the local business culture all feel connected to the city's history instead of competing against it. Greensboro feels more expansion focused to me. There's constantly new development happening, and the city continues stretching outward with more commercial growth and larger suburban style communities. Again, that appeals to a lot of buyers because it creates convenience and gives people access to a lot of amenities very quickly. But Winston-Salem has atmosphere. That's the thing that I always come back to. Winston feels like a city that people become emotionally attached to after living here for a while. I've had clients tell me that they originally planned on staying here only for a few years, and now they can't imagine leaving because they genuinely enjoy the pace and the personality of the city. And honestly, I think that's one of the biggest compliments you can give any city. When people stop talking about square footage and start talking about how much they enjoy their life there, that's when you know a place is really special. Winston-Salem gives a lot of people that feeling once they settle in and start building routines here. Now that doesn't mean that Greensboro can't give people that same feeling, because it absolutely can. I know plenty of people who love Greensboro and wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Greensboro offers convenience, activity, opportunity, and a larger city feel that naturally fits certain personalities better. Some people genuinely thrive in that environment and love having constant movement around them. That's why I always tell buyers not to focus too heavily on online rankings or statistics when trying to decide where to move. You really need to spend time in both cities and experience them for yourself, because one of them is usually going to feel more natural to you almost immediately. Sometimes the decision becomes obvious after a single afternoon of driving around. At the end of the day, you're not just buying a house when you relocate. You're buying your everyday life, you're buying your routines, your favorite restaurants, your gym, your commute, your neighborhood walks, your weekend plans, and the overall feeling you experience day to day. Those things matter far more long term than people realize than when they first start looking online at homes. And honestly, both Winston-Salem and Greensboro are really strong options in 2026. The entire Triad has become more attractive because people are realizing they can still build a genuinely good life here without dealing with overwhelming costs and stress that comes with a lot of the larger cities right now. You can still have space here, you can still have community here, you can still enjoy life here without feeling financially crushed all the time. So if you're trying to decide between Winston-Salem and Greensboro, my biggest advice is simple. Spend time in both cities. Pay attention to how each city makes you feel, and think honestly about the kind of lifestyle you want over the next several years. One of these cities is probably going to connect with you more naturally than the other. And when it does, you'll know it. And if you're thinking about making a move to the Triad, definitely reach out to me. I'd love to help you figure out which area fits your goals, your lifestyle, and your vision for what you want your life to look like moving forward. And if this video helped you out, even a little bit, and tap that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because I'm gonna keep showing up with content that helps people just like you become confident, educated homeowners. I've got more deep dives coming, whether you're buying, selling, or just learning. And make sure you watch this video, as it will help you with your home search. And when you're ready to make that move, just remember, Keon has the keys. I'll see you in the next one.